Why is the edible schoolyard vital, and could you discuss some of the incredible effects of having children grow, harvest, and prepare foods from the school garden?
Well, that's kind of where I was going, because I decided that we couldn't wait for the government to do this on its own, and that maybe what we needed were some really good examples of this actually working. So we began the edible schoolyard, the first one in a middle school in Berkeley. I happened to walk by it on my way home from Chez Panisse. It's about 6 or 8 blocks away, and I made a comment about how unkept it looked, and graffiti all over the walls and burnt out grass, and it looked like it was abandoned. And I made that comment in some newspaper. And I said, how could you be in an enlightened place like Berkeley with that great university and have the public school systems falling apart? Well, the principal called me up and called me into his office. And I went, and he thought that I would come and plant some flowers. And I said, let's take a walk around the school. And it happened to be a school that was built in 1921 on 17 acres of land. And it was meant to be for 500 kids, this school. I mean, beautiful land overlooking the bay, as a matter of fact. Well, part of, as things changed, the school took on more kids. And the cafeteria was closed because they couldn't accommodate all the children. And now they have 1,000 kids at that school. And they were eating out of a snack shack at the back of the schoolyard. Asphalt everywhere. And there was a place, sort of a big piece of land that had portable buildings on it. And we walked around, and I just had this vision of edible education. I guess that's what you could say, or revolution, or a delicious revolution. But I said, wouldn't it be fantastic if we just took over all of that land where the portable buildings were, and that we built a new cafeteria out there at the end of the asphalt area, and we fed every child at school for free. Of course, he said to me, "Well, I'll get back to you." And 6 months later, he got back to me. And he said, "We're ready to do it. We want to do the whole thing." He said, "But just don't talk about any of this yet." He said, "Let's just keep that as our private, our little secret, that we're going to feed all the kids for free. And right now, let's just work on the garden part." And so I agreed to do that. And Chez Panisse started its foundation. And we began planting seeds in people's minds, mostly for the first couple of years. And I used the restaurant as a way to persuade people to be part of it. So we invited the math and science classes, teachers, over to have lunch at the restaurant and have their meetings. And we invited the principals of the school to gather together. And it really helped them to understand this idea. And then we just became a big presence at the school and built a garden and a kitchen classroom, but not to teach gardening or cooking, per se. It was a place to teach whatever course the teacher who came into the garden was in charge of. So that meant if they came into the kitchen and it was a dramatic arts class, they'd be doing improvisational cooking. And if it were an art class, they might be out in the garden painting. But while they're out in the garden, they're eating the raspberries. They're engaged in the planting of seeds in a math class, calculating how many go into a bed, measuring. But all the time, they're having their senses opened up, and they're smelling, and they're tasting, and they're learning the names of all of the edible flowers. They're taking that food into the kitchen, and they're learning how to farm sustainably.
The edible schoolyard is in now 50 states, and I think in over 2,000 schools. Is that correct, Dallas?
Well, those are only the schools that we have gathered on our website, the Edible Schoolyard Project. But there are many, many more than that. Every day I come across another school. In fact, today I went up to see a school in Harlem that's connected with the one in Brooklyn. That was one that we helped to get going. Probably, how many years ago? Probably about 5 years ago we did that. And now they have a new one up in Harlem, and it was so incredible to see. I have to say, I mean, they don't have any land that is not paved over, but they got some wonderful planter boxes, and they have just begun to bring in soil, and it's only been going for about 9 months, but such enthusiasm from not only the teachers, but from the very important though,